I just published my memoir at the end of March, so that's hot off the presses. I must say that COVID-19 pandemic was an excellent time to sort of finish up the loose ends. For one thing, we know we had a lot of time at home. And I would call it a transformational memoir. And what that means is that the main character, who would be me, has a transformation throughout the book. Now, to some extent, everybody has a transformation throughout their life, just from growing up, if nothing else, but also just, different sort of chapters of life. But it was more than that. I was not a real happy camper as a kid. And I grew up to become a much happier woman, partially through therapy, partially through having a lot of good friends and a good husband and a good family. I suffered abuse and neglect, and it's interesting because I would say that the neglect was probably a bigger deal than the abuse, insofar as, first of all, I did not suffer sexual abuse, and I think that's the thing that is the worst. But also, there was a lot of verbal abuse, a lot of physical abuse, and not so much from my dad, but more from my mom. So what the divorce meant was that now I was living with my mom, and my dad wasn't there to be kind of a mediating person. I had a typical childhood in the 50s, where everything was sort of as straight-laced as LA can get. I'm not going to say it was straight-laced because it still was LA, but as straight-laced as LA could get. And then I went through the whole thing of, the Beatles and the hippie days, and I remember my dad laughing at me once when I was a teenager because I lost the guitar he had just gotten me at a love-in, and he was laughing at me, and he said, well, how did it get stolen? I said, well, I left it on the blanket. I mean, it was a love-in. I didn't think anybody would steal anything, which goes to show what a kid I was at the time. So then I was a hippie, and I went to UC Berkeley, and I met Eddie, my husband here, and it goes through the various life stages of, I don't know if any of you, probably all of you remember that back in the 70s there was a book called Passages. I don't even remember the name of the woman who wrote it. If somebody remembers, feel free to chime in.
Gail Sheehy.
Yeah, Gail Sheehy. That came to my mind, but I wasn't sure if it was right. So, okay. So, you can see that played out in here too. But what I mainly wanted to do is read enough sort of little snippets and some passages to give you a sense of it. So